Post edit here. We know that you must be getting tired of looking at the same old farming videos of us cutting and baling hay. This is our busy season at the barn, so it is taking us a long time to come up with some videos of the actual horses. If you want to see some videos of horses, you can go watch our shorts or even our TikTok. Every minute you stay really helps support our channel, so please consider staying and watching the entire video. We would really appreciate it. Thank you. Before the world woke up, the Smoky Mountains were already alive with the sound of the wind in the trees, rivers whispering through the valleys, and the steady rhythm of hooves on the mountain trails. For generations, these ridges have carried the stories of people who called them home, settlers, dreamers, riders, and keepers of the land. Here, every sunrise paints a new chapter. Every trail remembers the ones who came before, and every ride reminds us that history isn't written in books, it's lived out on the trails that wind through these mountains. This is Saddle Up Smokies, where the mountains meet the saddle and every ride has a story. In the Smoky Mountains, silence tells stories. If you listen closely, the wind carries echoes of laughter, of axes biting into wood, of hymns rising from the little white churches hidden in the hollows. Before the park, before the tourists and the roads, these ridges were alive with people, farmers, blacksmiths, and dreamers who carved a life out of the wilderness. But when the Smoky Mountains became a national park, their homes vanished, their towns were erased, and their stories almost forgotten. Today we walk through forests where their farms once stood, and though the people are gone, their ghosts still linger. This is the story of the lost communities of the Smokies. Before it was a park, this land was a patchwork of communities and farms. Small valleys hidden between steep ridges. Families settled here in the late 1700s and early 1800s, drawn by rich soil and clean water. There were dozens of towns: Elkmont, Cataloochee, Sugarlands, CadesCove, Tremont, Greenbrier, and Proctor, to name only a few. They each had their own heartbeat: churches, schools, sawmills, grist mills, and general stores. The people were isolated but not lonely. They built strong communities, bonded together by faith, family, and shared respect for the land. Life was hard, but it was theirs. The sound of wagons on the dirt road, the call of the roosters at dawn, the laughter of children walking miles to school. It was a life simple but not full. They cleared fields by hand, raised livestock, grew corn and sorghum, and bartered for what they couldn't make. Sundays were sacred, and nights were filled with hymns and fiddle tunes that echoed off the ridges. For more than a century, the Smokies were not a park, they were a home. By the late 1800s, the outside world had discovered the Smokies, not for their beauty, but for their timber. Logging companies swept in with railroads and machines. Whole mountainsides were stripped bare, trees felled by the thousands each day. Sawmills roared where birds once sang. In Tremont, Elkmont, and Proctor, lumber companies built entire towns for their workers. Temporary communities sprang up overnight. Rows of company houses, cookhouses, and rail lines that crawled their way deep into the wilderness. For locals, the timber boom brought jobs and money, but at a price. The land that they had fed generations was disappearing under the axe. When the timber companies left, they left behind a scarred land, hills stripped of trees, rivers choked with silt, and families struggling to rebuild on the ground that no longer gave life easily. And then came a new idea, one that would change the Smokies forever. In the 1920s, conservationists and politicians began calling for a national park to protect what remained of the southern Appalachians. They dreamed of saving the forest and creating a refuge for future generations. But to the people who still lived there, it wasn't a dream, it was a threat. The creation of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park meant one thing: every farm, every home, every graveyard within its borders would have to be sold to the government. Over 6,000 families were displaced. Some sold willingly, hopeful that the land would be preserved. Others resisted until the courts forced them out through eminent domain. For many, it wasn't about money. It was about roots. Generations buried under the soil, the sweat of lifetimes soaked into the ground. Some fought for years to stay, others left quietly, carrying only what they could fit into a wagon. A few were granted lifetime leases, allowed to live out their days in their cabins under one condition: that when they died, the park would take everything: their homes, their fields, their history. And so it did. One by one, the valleys emptied. Church bells fell silent. Smoke stopped rising from chimneys. The mountains, once alive with community, became quiet again, returned to wilderness. Today, the Smokies hold their ghosts close. Walk the trails and you'll find them, not in the shadows, but in what remains. In Elkmont, you can still see the ghost towns of the Smokies, where the summer cabins once belonged to Knoxville vacationers. Their wooden walls lean and creak, reclaimed slowly by moss and time. In Greenbrier, stone chimneys rise from the forest floor, the only sign that families once cooked supper there. In Cataloochee, the sound of the church bells still rings from the old Palmer Chapel, and if you listen closely, you might hear the echoes of a hymn drifting across the meadow. In Proctor, along the shores of the Fontana Lake, the ruins of a logging town lie beneath the water. Entire roads and cemeteries submerged when the Fontana Dam was built in the 1940s. Even Sugarlands, now the site of a visitor center, once a farming community filled with orchards, homes, and laughter. The forest took them all back, quietly, patiently, but the land remembers. Every moss-covered rock, every trace of a field, every handmade nail pulled from the dirt is a reminder. The Smokies were not born empty, they were emptied by time. The creation of the park took much: homes, livelihoods, entire communities. But it also saved something priceless. Without the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, the logging would have continued, the forest would have vanished, the wildlife would have disappeared. Instead, the valleys healed, trees grew back, rivers cleared, and the black bears returned. The scars faded, but the memories endured, carried in the names, in the stories, and in the descendants of those who once called these mountains home. Today, park rangers and historians work tirelessly to preserve what remains, restoring old buildings, clearing overgrown cemeteries, and telling the stories of those who were there before. The work reminds us that the park is not just a sanctuary for nature, it's a memorial to a people who gave up everything so the mountains could live. The Smokies are not haunted by sadness, they are haunted by memory. Every step you take there follows into the footprints of someone who came before. Every ridge holds the laughter and labor of the families who made the wilderness a home. The ghosts of the Smokies aren't trapped, they are honored. They lived in the mist that rolls through the valleys, in the songs of the birds, and in the peace that draws millions here every year. When you stand among the ruins of a cabin or hear the echo of a church bell in the wind, remember, the people who built this land are still here, not in the body, but in spirit. And that's what keeps the Smokies alive. The sun sets behind the Smokies and the valley grows still, but the stories never stop. Every mountain, every trail, every whisper of wind carries a memory of those who came before us. The settlers who built their homes here, the families who gave up everything so this land could be protected, and the generations who came to ride beneath these same skies keep their spirit alive. These mountains have been a joy and loss, work and wonder, and they've given us something greater than we could ever repay, a place to belong. Here at Saddle Up Smokies, we're not just telling stories, we're keeping a legacy alive. One trail, one ride, one story at a time. Because every hoof beat across the ground connects the past to the present, reminding us that the Smokies are more than just a place, they are a living memory. So if the mountains speak to your heart, if you love the stories, the history, and the horses that make this place what it is, then join us. Hit subscribe, give this video a like, and share it with someone who loves the Smokies as much as we do. Together, we'll keep these trails alive, not just in the park, but in the hearts of everyone who still believes in the magic of the mountains. From all of us at Saddle Up Smokies, where the mountains meet the saddle, and every ride has a story.